if anybody wants to. This is Sue Peterson tonight and next Thursday. I have invited all the candidates to be with us. For those that are online with us tonight to ask questions about anything you want to know. This is your open forum time to talk about to ask questions of our candidates that have placed their name into nomination. And we do have so I had originally designated this week for trustee candidates and next week for vice president candidates. However, Scott Sims was unable to be with us tonight because he has his membership. He chairs a membership committee, and their committee was meeting tonight, and he didn't want to give such a last minute notice. And I said, I completely understand that. So he will be with us next week. But I also see that I have Gary on the call tonight. So we're just going to kind of leave it open forum for candidates, whether you're a trustee candidate or a vice president candidate. And then, so Gary, if you wish to participate, fine. If you don't, you can wait till next week. Your choice.
I'll be on next week. So
okay, so you can hang out for next week. Like I said, I know that for sure that Scott will be on next week. He said, I just can't cancel my meeting. I'm like, it's okay. I get it for membership. And then the last week we'll do the week before convention. We'll actually sit down and talk about answer any questions, more questions, or have any discussion about the amendments that are coming before the House the last week, because I figure many people have watched the sessions on Voices of Service, but I know there's still questions. In fact, I'm still getting people are sending me questions about the dues proposal and several of the other proposals out there. So I thought we'd just leave it open for time for people to talk and try to answer questions for those that wanted to get that information. I've had a few people say, can I still register for convention? And I'm like, absolutely, you can still register for convention. No one's going to stop you. For any of our board members that are here, does anybody have a number on registration numbers by chance? Has anybody heard a number?
About 15, a little over 1,500.
Okay.
It was the one Mike sent out a couple days ago.
Okay. All right. Well, that's 1,500. That's good.
It's pushing 1,600. So
yeah, that means that almost everybody will be able to go to the ball game.
Yeah.
That's okay. That'll be fun. That'll be good ball game. I'm excited about that. Hopefully I know it's gonna be warm, but we'll be okay. So with that, I am going to just kind of open up the forum tonight for people to ask questions. I think the first thing I'll do is have all of our candidates that are on tonight introduce themselves. And I don't think we've done anything as far as telling us about your family and about your professional life. Most of everything we have done has been talking about your Kiwanis role. So why don't we start with Eric's on my upper left-hand corner. So Eric, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your family and your professional life.
Sure. I'm Eric Paul. I'm from Western New York, outside of Buffalo, a town called West Seneca. I've been in Kiwanis for 40 years. I have a grown son who's 24 and a granddaughter who's just finishing up second grade. I'm retired from the state of New York. I worked for the legislature for a number of years, for court administration, and then for the Senate, and did a lot of different things, and took my pension when it was time. And now I have a lot of time to dedicate to what else is big in my life. I'm still active in my club. I'm still an active volunteer firefighter. I've done that for 44 years, and keep busy. Today I was staining my deck.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Joe.
Okay. I am from the Kansas, and I married my childhood sweetheart in July.
Uh-oh.
Okay, we know that Joe is going through bad weather.
Bad weather.
Tornadoes.
Am I freezing?
Yeah. You're back.
You're back.
Joe, try turning off your video and see if that helps.
We heard as far as wedding.
Okay. Well, we were married 47 years ago.
That works.
Okay, that's great. And we have 3 beautiful daughters and perfect grandchildren and a bonus. So we have always lived in K-State. I actually, for my business, I've done lots of different things. I've had some exciting jobs in my life, including living at volcano when I
Ah.
worked at Murdo Station in Anfield, and I drove scientists and other smart people around on the ice, and I did an actual polar plunge. So that's my exciting part. Hobby fun was that wood, but it's called pyrography because when you take wood burning to a fine art, you get to have a fancier name and so I owned my own gallery for several years, and I wrote a book on how to burn realistic portraits. That that book came out at just the right time that I was invited to China, to Shanghai, China, in an expense paid trip to what Chinese people. So I'm kind of familiar with traveling around, comfortable with doing that. I've been to Africa twice now, and it's because that this because it was at Kiwanis meetings that people talked about you can get Antarctica, and people said you can go beds in Kenya, and so I owe all of this fun stuff to my business.
All right, so we did have some breakups along the way there, Joe. So if anybody's hears something or heard something and they want to ask you questions about, you may have to explain
Okay.
what was going on. But we know what it's all because of the weather that you're going through. So people, we got it. I'm like, we got the volcano, we got China, we got. So if something comes up and you go, wait a minute, I said that, you'll know why. So, but we understand completely. So okay, Dawn, let's go, Dawn.
Yeah, so I'm Dawn Puderba Hodges. I live in South Carolina, member of the Greenwood, South Carolina Kiwanis Club in the Carolinas District. I actually spent the first 26 years of my life in Kansas, and my family still lives there. I graduated from University of Kansas with a Master of Social Work and a law degree, and met my husband in law school. We've been together since then. We moved to South Carolina together. And we now have a 19-year-old son who just finished his freshman year of college at Clemson. And professionally, I am an attorney for the state of South Carolina, Department of Social Services. I handle child abuse and neglect cases and elder abuse and neglect cases. It's mostly child abuse and neglect, though. I also am an adjunct professor at a college teaching business law and sports law. Most of my career has been in nonprofit or government work, working with and for children. So that's my experience.
Thank you, Larry.
Good evening, everybody, or maybe still afternoon in Kansas. But I'm Larry Forsberg. I'm from the Illinois Eastern Iowa district, and I live in and have lived my whole life in Northern Illinois, not in Chicago, the state of Chicago or the city of Chicago. And but I was born in the city of Chicago. And I've been married to the current president of the Kiwanis Club of Sycamore for 53 years. Now, she hasn't been the president of the club for 53 years. We've just been married to each other for 53 years. It's not that hard to find a new president. But we've got 4 kids. The oldest 2 are boys, the youngest 2 are girls. They're all in their 40s and early 50s, and we have 5 grandsons in that order and 1 granddaughter. And Princess Charlotte Kate is just turned 13, so she is the youngest of the group. I've been an insurance broker for 49 years now, And sometimes I shudder when I say I've done anything for 49 years, but then I'm kind of glad that I've had the I'm always the smartest guy in the room finally, because everybody else died. So, but I spent my early years, I spent 4 years in the Navy. A year and a half of that was in Vietnam. I was in the Mobile Riverine Force, so it was an exciting time of my life. And as I've told people, I would do it all over again if I knew the outcome would be the same. But so we just we enjoy travel. We've traveled to a lot of foreign Kiwanis conventions that really, for a number of years, that was our summer vacation. Is we took it in late June and July, and we went to Geneva or Paris or, Vegas or New Orleans, or nothing like New Orleans in June and July, or Vegas couple of times, I guess. So have enjoyed going to a lot of different Kiwanis conventions and district conventions, and but just looking forward to challenges, and I believe the challenge of being a trustee is something that I'm looking forward to.
Thank you, Larry. Gary, since you're on tonight, we're gonna go ahead and have you introduce yourself as well in case someone's on this week but can't be on next week. So we might as well.
Okay, well, I'm Gary Graham. I am a almost 34-year member of the Kiwanis Club Baton Rouge. Jamie and I have been married. 34 years ago was a momentous occasion for me. Jamie and I got married. We bought our house, and we started. And I joined Kiwanis all within 6 months of everything. So it's been interesting. I had a 39-year career in university administration, both at the University of Virginia and at LSU, and served as Larry did in the military. And I was sent to Germany as an interpreter translator, and did my time there. And as Larry, I would do it again. It definitely helped me grow up. Jamie and I have 4 children, 12 grandchildren. Our 13th is on the way. And 2 weeks ago, we had our first great grandchild. So, like I said, Jamie and I have both been Cub Scout leaders for 32 years, and we just finished up our 32nd year, and we'll be getting into our 33rd in August when the new school year starts. We started it as a program, as an after-school program, and have stayed with it, and have enjoyed my time. I'm a Key Club advisor, Circle K advisor. So I've done it all, and enjoy it, doing it as well. And had some great times as trustee with the districts I've been able to counsel: the Philippines, Calneva, Capital District, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee. So looking forward to seeing if I can continue with the administration at KI.
All right, thanks, Gary. I don't believe I have anybody else that's not in picture that's a candidate. I didn't see anybody else on the list. So with that, I will, those of you that are don't have your picture shown, if you want to show it, you can. If not, we're okay with that. You can put your questions in chat, or that way we can bring them out, or anybody that's on that wants to ask a question now, please feel free to go ahead, and you can direct it at any or all the candidates, and we will start from there. So I will open up the floor.
I'm waiting
right.
for the Jeopardy music.
I guess so. I am too. All right. So I'll ask the first question. Tell us one thing that you would bring from your professional life to the board as a trustee. One thing as a trustee that you feel you can bring from your professional life. And I will just let you talk.
I'll start. I spent a lot of time working in the state legislature, both in the Assembly and the Senate in New York, a lot of times helping to mediate different sides with different positions and trying to find a common ground. And finding a common ground is really important to the best eventual benefit of everybody and the best positive outcome. So that's one thing I think I would bring.
I'll jump in there. My creativity and solving in all of my jobs, there's always, you had to be fast on your feet and come up with solutions.
Okay.
And I'll go. Similar to Eric, I didn't work in the legislature, but I am an attorney, and I'm very well versed. And one of the things I always teach my students about the law is you have to be able to see both sides of an issue, and how important that can be. You can't be so entrenched in your position that you can't see the other side and you can't anticipate what they're going to argue or what reasons they're going to bring to the table. And I would couple that with my compassion for doing always what's in the best interest of children, given that's what I primarily work for.
Larry?
You want me to put in mine too?
Sure, go for it, Gary.
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, I have 39 years in a university administration, working my way up from a student bus driver up to the director of the parking, traffic, and transportation. Got to work with multi-million-dollar budgets, come up with new programs, deal with computing. It was in the parking business, so I had to balance the demands of students, staff, faculty, and visitors. And so I had a lot of experience listening to everybody's complaints and sometimes their accolades. Very few of those, but I got some. I guess the biggest plus I got out of it is after I left and retired so I could just do Kiwanis full time, was I've had heard from so many people over the last 10 years about it used to be a whole lot better under you.
Yeah.
Yep, I hear that. We hear that all the time, don't we? Larry?
Well, as I said, I've been an insurance broker for 49 years, and the last half of my career has been involved where I've insured thousands of homes and cars and things like that. But recently, for the last 18 years, I've been insuring school districts, and I insure lots of high-end corporate directors and officers liability policies, policies that relate to a lot of different things that are applicable with Kiwanis. Kiwanis spends a lot of money on insurance, and I would like to be fresh, new eyes on stuff. I think that's what every trustee should be when they come in, is just be a fresh set of eyes looking at this and that and this and taking what skill sets they've developed over their careers and their life and bring that to the board. And I find that maybe after you've been doing something for so long, there's a number of people who rely on your expertise and who are coming to you and asking for my set of eyes on how their business could be more efficiently run, and how their transportation departments, what do we need to do with all of these buses to keep them secure? And students say, what are your thoughts, Mr. Risk Manager? So I like bringing a fresh set of eyes to educators, and even I have a couple of big not-for-profits insured who have wonderful missions that they're trying to achieve, and helping them with a side of their business that they don't realize has to be addressed. The safety of their clients and stuff. So I like being a fresh set of eyes and an expert.
Great. Greg has a question.
Yeah, is there anything that you'd like Kiwanis to try that either hasn't been tried before, or maybe there, it hasn't been done enough. In other words, maybe we started something that stopped and you'd like to bring it back.
This is Larry again. One wouldn't go to a club that's been in existence for 2 years and has 12 members on what they think or what they have done to succeed. You wouldn't do that. You would go to a club, I think, that has 60 members, and in the last year they've added 20. So you've got a success someplace in there. There's a formula. They have adopted some standards and some recruiting efforts, and they have some dedication. But I think we need to concentrate on finding the answer to our maintaining these clubs and developing new clubs by looking at the clubs. We have a lot of clubs that have been extremely successful over the last 10 years. I just looked at our district. We've got about 40 clubs that have more members now than they had in 2009. Now, we have about 3 times as many clubs that have lost members. Well, I don't want to go to a club that has lost members without an idea that I'm bringing from a club who has been successful in doing whatever they do to get new members, and what they've done to achieve club excellence. That's what they're doing. So I think there's a lot we could learn by looking at success rather than trying to invent a new wheel.
I will jump in to agree with that, because I believe every club has their own heart, and they have their different. Have a lot of lawyers in there. Some of the, a lot of another, that kind of stuff. So their club, the feel of their club is and very open about going in and bringing in new members, and that's great. They should focus on ideas on that. And we have other clubs that are really good at going to go help open new clubs, because retention and building, they're together. We have to do it all at the same. Help everybody where they're at now, to not fall behind.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Larry. Dawn?
So, yeah, so I would add to that, all great things. Also, we really need to be focused on recruiting a lot of younger people. You visit a lot of clubs and they complain that they don't have many young people, or that young people don't want to join Kiwanis clubs. I will say that at 54, there are 2 members in my club that are older than me, and the rest of them make me feel old. So I think we really need to find a way. And when we say it can't be done because they're parents and they have young kids, a lot of you were in Kiwanis when you had young kids. You need to find out, one, what is of value to young people in a membership. Maybe it's not a speaker, maybe it's more service. I know we have a lot of young professional clubs, but that's not the only way to do it. And if we have younger people who don't want to join, I think we really need to ask them why and listen to what they have to say without getting defensive. It's so easy for us to get defensive about why wouldn't you want to be a part of us, when we're not listening to them as to what brings value. So that's one thing I think we should try more of.
Okay. Eric, go ahead.
Well, Greg, I think a lot of what we did during the formula years was positive. A lot of the ways that there was an emphasis and a push on club growth and expansion. But I think that just ending it, the end of calendar year 2018, was a huge mistake, because all of a sudden there's a hole there and clubs just stopped. And we should have done something. We could have done something to help build those new members into Kiwanian, and the Kiwanians, and those Kiwanians into Kiwanis leaders. And that's where we're lacking a lot of the times. We take in a lot of new members. We welcome them. Welcome. How are you? Glad you're here. And then we set them aside. And we need to spend more time training Kiwanians to be the facilitators and the leaders and the club growth people, not so much staff, but have Kiwanians do that kind of thing, lead the workshops, push for positive growth. It's a cookie cutter thing. Every club is a puzzle piece because every club needs something different. Nobody, we're not all the same. A 60-member club versus a 15-member club have different needs. Young people, old people, professions, different professions, a mix. No one joins Kiwanis to join Kiwanis International. They join Kiwanis to help their community and be in their own home club. So we've got to take a local look at what's going on and not so much just a corporate vision, I think.
Yeah, Dawn is right that we need to focus on young people. When I joined the Kiwanis Club in Sycamore, I would say 95% of the members were drawing a paycheck from someplace. Now, a whole bunch of the same guys, because it was all guys back when I joined, but a whole bunch of those guys are now drawing down their 401k or getting Social Security. And we don't have, I would say less than 10% of our club of 48 members are working and getting a paycheck. They're all, and volunteering shouldn't be something that only old people can do or retired people can do. I think we need a barber. If we I think we need an undertaker. I think we need a guy who owns a shoe store. I think he needs to join us because he will get value to his business by joining. I got value to my business when I joined, and it ended up being more than selling insurance or anything like that. It got way different than that. That was no longer a priority. But I would confess to anyone that when I joined the Kiwanis Club of Sycamore and left JC's because I got too old, that my motivation was, this is going to help my career. And it didn't take long to figure out there's something a lot bigger than my career involved when you're talking about Kiwanis. But we need to get the undertaker, the barber, the beauty shop operator, the banker. We don't have any bankers in our club. 48 members, we don't have one banker. Now how much every bank in town is losing out on that. We should have a representative. They're losing business because they're not members.
Okay. Gary?
I have seen a lot of need in establishing the clubs, because that's how we're going to grow, is to reestablish these clubs that we've lost over the last 30 years. And it's going to be a long process. I mean, we died by 1,000 cuts over the last 30 years. So we're not going to resolve this issue overnight. It's going to take some rethinking on how we're doing it. Over the last year, I've been on 6 club building efforts, and I see that, and I've brought it back to the staff, is we need to make it easier for clubs to get created and get out of the bureaucratic stuff. And that's true, especially of the younger people. They don't want to hear that. I brought in 3 30-somethings into my club, and they don't come to meetings because they can't. They're working full time. Actually, I brought in more than that, but I mean, the past year I brought in 3. And the key there is to give them something that they can work on project wise. And so you've got to make the clubs a little bit more flexible in what they can do. That a lot of the bureaucratic stuff should be done at KI, and taking that off the club so they can do what they were formed. I was at the charter night last week up in Manny, Louisiana, and they were so excited about the work that they've started. It's only been 2 months, but we can't bog them down with the IRS 9090s and the registering with the state to get incorporated and all of that stuff. Yeah, they need to know some of that, but a lot of that stuff should just be a box where they check off. I'm secretary for my club, and so when I do the report every month, I mean, a lot of that is just fill in the blanks, and that's what it should be for all the clubs in all parts of what they're doing. It shouldn't be anything where they go, I don't want to mess with this, because all it is checking a box or unchecking a box. And so if we're going to recruit the younger members, we've got to make it more welcoming. We've got to have a good club experience. I've got my club to start doing some socials at least once a quarter, because the young people can come, and we make it a family friendly thing. So bring your kids. We know you have soccer, you have baseball, you have all of the things that go with young families, but we tell them to bring the kids, and it works well, because then the kids are playing while the adults are getting to know each other without having a speaker, without having to go through all of the formalities of a normal meeting.
Thank you.
We have
got
a question in the chat, Sue.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. A new website template was just introduced as a Kiwanis resource. How do you feel about creating social media resources, not just images, to help Kiwanis clubs reach a higher audience?
I think the Kiwanis has got to, a lot of us, I'll say us because I'm part of it, older people are into Facebook, and social media is important because it gets everybody in contact with everybody. But the younger generation is not on Facebook. They're on Snapchat, or they're on whatever else, and Instagram. And we need to diversify and be on all of them, because we have to reach as many people as we can to tell them about our projects, tell them about our service projects, if we have a fundraiser, whatever. And I think it's a great tool that Kiwanis can avail themselves of if they're just taught how to use it, taught how to set it up. I know the office has been good about helping start pages, having new clubs. We've opened, one of the first things we did was we opened a Facebook page. We opened an Instagram page. We let people share information about their club with others, and it's free. My goodness, why not?
Joe?
Didn't want to see me when I'm talking, so tie into what Eric is saying, and also that we're used to open new clubs, and I find not just putting it on your Facebook page, you have to go to your town's community, other little that you need to be posting this information onto the community happenings, and whatever town has a different set of rules to do that. But putting it on our little Lean's Facebook page, nobody's really looking at that. I think to go there.
All right.
To Facebook.
Yeah. Actually, Joe, you're actually better when your face is on.
Really?
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, there you go.
Let me say all that again.
Yep.
We love seeing that smile, Joe.
Yep.
Okay.
Dawn and then Larry.
Can you repeat the question again specifically? I
I
think
can.
I didn't see it in the chat, but
What came in the questions and answers.
oh.
A new website template was just introduced as a Kiwanis resource. How do you feel about creating social media resources, not just images, to help Kiwanis clubs reach a higher audience?
I mean, obviously that's a great idea. I mean, I think that, the templates for the websites are great. It's a little bit different for some of the social media pages. The images are great for Instagram and Facebook. I do think that a lot of training probably needs to go into understanding all the metrics behind a Facebook post or an Instagram post, of being able to understand what time of day. There are a lot of metrics that those platforms give you, that if you know how to look for it, to know the best time of day to post something that gets the most response from your followers, or the best time of day to get new followers, or things like that. I think any of the training that can go along with that, for those folks who aren't familiar with Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, while we have it. I love me some TikTok, but I think there's a lot of training in how to use all the metrics that are there to get the most bang for your buck.
Thanks, Dawn. Larry?
I think as trustees, we can't be an expert at social media. We need to make sure that within the organization, we have all of the right people in the right chairs on the bus. A new trustee, as we all are potential, we need to assess talent. As a person on the board of directors, you need to know who are the people training the people. The governors and the lieutenant governors and the social media experts that are employed by KI, they have to be the best they can be. We have to be able to determine through results that they in their implementation of these thoughts and ideas about new websites and social media, that it's effective. It's a measurable thing. If we can't realize a benefit from them, those folks need to find something different. We have to keep evolving to find that. We're not going to find any miracle drug in this thing, but the trustees are there to govern. We're there to make sure that we've got the right people on the bus and they're all in the right seat. And I'm a firm believer that in every organization at every level, 25% of the people are looked at, and 75 say, how did those 25% ever get a job? And there's 15% at the top that everybody goes, God, we need more of those people. I mean, we just, that person, we love her or him, and there's all of the people in between. We have to make sure that we are getting the best candidates for employees who implement the things that need to be done to enable our governors and our lieutenant governors and our club presidents to succeed.
Thank you, Larry. I'm going to throw the next question. Chuck had a question, and then Dennis had a question, and then we have one in the chat. So Chuck and then Dennis.
Okay, thank you, Sue. It's good to be with you all this evening. And the question I'd like to ask you at this time is, leaders produce leaders. Name one way you are developing leaders in Kiwanis today. Would you like for me to read it again? Okay, I think they got it. All right, thank you, Sue.
Eric?
Sponsoring and mentoring new Kiwanians. I think that's the best way. One of the best ways when we get people we know or contacts we have to join, but then once they join, help them grow into from the member level to Kiwanis level, and hopefully to become a Kiwanis leader. And because, like you said, leaders beget leaders. That's what we have to do. We have to personally say, "Hey, come on and join us," and then after they're there, help them. Push them or goad them or whatever to take the next step, take the next chair, take the next office, etc. Because that's how we get more leaders.
Don?
Sorry about that. One of the best ways that Kiwanis in general produces new leaders is through our SLPs. When we are, I have been a Key Club advisor, a Circle K administrator, assistant district administrator, and teaching them the skills that they need. We start in grade school all the way up, and teaching those folks skills, how to run meetings, how to plan events, how to recruit other people, how to make presentations. We spend a lot of time just telling them, all of teaching them those skills, and then encouraging them to run for club officer or district officer or international officer. All of that encouragement and all the things that we teach our students in the SLPs and our Action Club members, I think is one of the best ways we build leaders.
Thank you, Don. Joe and then Larry.
I'm on that same token with our adult new members that join the club. We're just having 2 new young women that joined our club, and so they want to be in leadership. So thankfully, Kiwanis already has come to the leadership training and teach them how to be this. So have the Club, which are fourth and fifth graders. Had them for 10 years. The parliamentary procedures. So I'm with our city manager, and we're like, look, arcade kids on a city meeting because they know the processes. So we feel really good about having already started with the young people to teach them, and also for the adults who didn't growing up, have something for everybody if you just help them. And it's a this committee with me, and we'll go find new members and we'll make it fun. So that's how I lead.
Thank you, Joe. Larry?
You know, I think there's a group of people in every club that's over 25, well, I'll say, that have been around long enough that they remember the good presidents and the bad presidents, the good secretaries and the bad secretaries, because there have been both. And I think those people who have been around, they need to be together and recognize people who have the skill set they feel to lead, whether it be as a treasurer, a secretary, a board member, or whatever. And then they have to ask them, explain to them why they really feel they're qualified to be a leader, and then just give them an opportunity to succeed. Just put them out there, mentor them. They've been a member for a few years. They're not going to put them in the secretary's position or the club's president's position. And I have to say, not because she's sitting alongside of me, but my wife was not a Kiwani until after I was governor. And every once in a while, I would jokingly say, you know, one of these days you're going to be president. She goes, no way. It was just not on her radar. It was on my radar because I'd been married to her for long enough to know that she could take charge. And I'll tell you what, this year, we're having a difficult time finding a vice president. And I am firmly convinced that it's because everybody in the club who's not been president is saying, no way I am following Steph. I am not going to, I can't do what she does. And so I think we find those people and we give them an opportunity and we tell them, we think you can be a leader. And what better feeling is there for a Kiwanian to see success in an adult? I mean, we love the successes that our young people have, but when you can see success in another adult in leadership, it's just, it really gives me a good feeling.
Thanks, Larry. Gary, did you want to respond?
The biggest thing I'd say is you got to be a leader, you lead from the front. So you got to lead by example. And if you're going to bring someone along, you need to be able to relate to them. That's how I've related to the younger members I've brought in, is listen to them and see what their strengths are, what their interests are, and put them in charge of something. And then monitor them, mentor them, and just let them know that, hey, don't worry about screwing up. I'm with you and we'll get it straight. But you've got to give them a little bit of authority, a little bit of responsibility, and just monitor how they come along. And, you know, you can quietly make suggestions as to this may be a little better way as opposed to that way. All of these things that you just, but it's got to be a hands-on, and it's got to be personal, and it's got to be one-on-one, and getting these members, and that goes for the older members too. A lot of times they're afraid to take on that responsibility, just as Larry was pointing about, they didn't want to follow his wife. You know, you've just got to say, hey, we've got you. And we've done that with a lot of the people in like our pancake program, where we serve 6,000-7,000 people once a year for our pancake day, along with art show and talent show. They see how big it is and they're afraid that they're going to not be able to handle it. And the one thing we tell them is, if you get to that position where you're the vice president, you'll be the one in charge of it. We have people here backing you up all the way. So you don't have to worry about a thing. You're there just to make sure things are working well, and you're going to have more advisors than you want to say grace over.
All right, thank you. Dennis, your question.
Sure. In a lot of the Zoom calls I've been on recently with people from, we call it 3636, and you'll learn that term if you don't know it already. A new term's kind of come up called added value. So what I'd like to ask each of you is, as a trustee, one of your main jobs is to counsel districts, just like when you were governor. What value will you as a trustee add to the district you counsel?
Okay, I'll be brave and go first.
Go, Don. I was just waiting for some. I know how you got to have time to think, so I get it.
The first thing I would plan on doing is asking them what they need. Every district has different needs, and it seems like different districts complain about a counselor did this or didn't do this, when it just came down to the fact if they didn't know what that district really needed or really wanted. So first thing I would do is ask them, as your counselor, what is the primary thing you want from me? How can I help you? What are the things you need the biggest help with? And really go from there, and starting to listen before I start telling. And actually probably never really telling, just sharing information, but listening would be the first thing I would think.
Joe?
So I follow on that, and know, and to be recognized for it. So
Joe, can you back up? We lost all of everything before that.
we want to make sure all the districts
Oh, you froze
Ugh.
again.
We want to is all we heard.
That's good. It was good.
I'm sure it
Thanks
was.
for Scott. That was his part that I
Yes.
but to talk to the districts on their needs. Like Dawn says, you well to what they're, but they also want to hear what they well. Kudos and the pats on the back to make them feel good and want to continue to district.
All right, I think we got that. Everybody, I think everybody's good. You know what, Joe, you might want to just type a couple of things in chat.
Yeah.
I think we got the focus, but that will make sure we get it. Eric.
I think the starting point has got to be as a listener, to listen what their expectations are from a counselor, what their experience has been with a counselor, what they need, what they think our role should be, what they think our role should be, and then we explain what our role should be, and then a cheerleader for their best projects. I know Chuck was our counselor 2 years ago, and he was at all our 7:30 a.m. calls, urging people to keep going and push harder and do more work and do more on club building and growth. And that was great. And I think it's partially being a cheerleader, partially being the person who brings and explains Kiwanis' objectives and programs to the local districts, and finding out what their needs are and how we can fill them.
Thank you, Eric. Larry?
You know, I think we need to, not every governor is the same. Not every governor, the past 3 governors of a district all feel that they may have a different need. I think you need to relate to that governor. The governor is the leader. He's the governor. He's the one who's governing that district. And I think we need to know just where he or she is at. And then I think we have to know where the resources are. We cannot be, as trustees, an expert about every aspect of making Kiwanis grow and retention. And we all have ideas and stuff, but they're probably, for the most part, ideas that every governor has heard. And so we need to find out what the governor wants to do, how he wants to do it, and then what resources we need as trustees to bring to the table. And if it's an issue that we don't feel comfortable in solving, then we need to find somebody to solve it and bring that help to the table. But I think it's about listening, but you know, you have to listen to the governor. He's the one who's going to be delivering the message, if you will. You're not going to get that much of an opportunity to speak to club presidents. They're not going to be listening very often. The decon attendance is way down. If you get half of the club presidents to show up at a decon, it's probably lucky. So you really need that governor and that lieutenant governor to tell you what they feel, and it may be contradictory in some cases.
Okay, Gary, I'm going to skip you on that question since
I've been counseling.
you've been counseling. We'll leave it off that. Okay. Next question. I gotta find it here. Woohoo, where to go? Where to go? And thanks, Joe, for putting your stuff in there. Okay, and this may be this came from one of our audience members who's not pictured today. Haha. What recommendations do you have to alter the budget if we get a dues increase and if we do not get a dues increase? And that may be a little more difficult for our candidates, our trustee candidates, since they haven't, I don't know what their involvement is and how big what they've seen on the budget, but what recommendations do you have for altering the budget either way?
I'll jump in.
Okay,
I'll
Larry.
jump in on that. You know, in either event, it's going to be difficult. Whether there's more money that has to be, that is coming in as revenue. The difficult decision is how to funnel those resources, those new resources to an area that is going to get the biggest bang for the buck. And if we don't have it, we need to find out what resources we have, how are we going to best utilize them to get the best bang for our buck. But it's a matter of being eyes on the road. It's a matter of being a new board member. It's learning the budget. Where is the money going? Where do we feel? Where does the majority of the board feel the money should be devoted to? And then deciding how in fact to act with those resources.
Right.
Thank you, Joe.
Let's see her now, but I've never asked in the total budget, so I really wouldn't know where, but I know customer service wise, I would like to make sure that the website is not having glitches in it. And like when you're going to the store, there are just certain new members go there. We tell them go here and get stuff, and then the web's terrible. So the nuts and bolts of our Kiwanis International is what I want. We're doing well.
Thank you, Joe. Eric?
I think that we have to prioritize. I think that services to the clubs have got to come first. I think that we can't make any poor decisions like cutting governor-elect training. That was a huge mistake that's still affecting our current governor-elects. That they just didn't get the training that we all got when we were governor-elects. And that was one of the best weekends I've been through in Kiwanis. We can't cut off our nose to spite our face. I guess it's a bad analogy, but that was a huge mistake. We have to look at dollars and cents, but we also have to look at priorities and club effectiveness, club tools, training. We have to train our Kiwanis leaders to be better guides for people. Not so much staff, but Kiwanians have to be trained, like we did under Formula, to be the people who go back out to the clubs and take the message back. Dollar or no dollar, we've got to look at what's going on and what's most important.
Okay. And Dawn.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit I haven't had a deep dive into the budget, and I anticipate that those of us who are elected to the board, that will be the first job we are tasked with. No matter how any of the votes go in Denver, we'll be looking at that. And really, you know, I agree with what was said, looking at what we're providing to the clubs, what are our priorities, what can we not sacrifice And also, this may or may not be a popular question, but how many times are we flying board members for how many days to Indianapolis? Maybe it's all necessary. I don't know. But I mean, if we're looking at all the expenses, we're going to have to look at the ones that are being spent on us too.
Thank you, Dawn. Did I get all the trustee candidates? I think I got y'all.
You did.
Okay. All right, it is 8:57. So I'm going to give each one of the trustee candidates 30 seconds. Tell us why you should get our vote. Larry, I'll let you go first, but you got to turn your mic on.
I have dived deep into the budget. The budget is online. The 941s are online. How the Kiwanis International has spent their money, and I have dived deep into it. I know areas that seem like we've spent too much money, but I don't know that until I've seen why the money was spent. But I think value, we need to find what values people to be member. If they don't relish the value of being a member, they aren't going to pay a dues increase. And they're not even pay the dues that are there. So we have to bring value, and we have to govern. We're trustees, we're in charge, we're on the board of directors, we need to govern.
Thank you, Larry. Joe?
I think that the reason you should vote for me is because I do bring a unique perspective of coming from a very small district, yet I have been able to work with everybody around the world. I'm literally an international Kiwani.
Thank you, Joe. Eric?
Well, I'm the only candidate whose roots are in Key Club, and then I went on to be in Circle K for a good time. It was a governor and an international officer in Circle K. In the last 40 years in Kiwanis, I've been first off, I was the kind of Kiwanian who helped the students who were in the organizations who followed me, but then went to building and growth in the past number of years. I've had a background in all of it. I've been, I do come from a bigger district, but no district is more diverse than New York. My God, from Western New York to Staten Island and the end of Long Island, we're different people. We all have to work together, and we do. And those skills, I think, will be important. And just the mix of everything. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Wonderful. Eric? Dawn?
I think, and I could be wrong, that I'm the youngest candidate running. Some of you have been married for as long as I've been alive, and I think that's super impressive. And I hope to get to there someday too. But, as part of that, I think that I am old enough to have the experience needed for this job, but maybe young enough to relate to some of the people that we're trying to recruit as new leaders and new members with maybe some new ideas.
Thank you, Dawn.
I hope it didn't offend anybody. I'm sorry.
Nope. I used to say that when clubs were having their 50th anniversary, I'm like, club's been along longer than I've been alive. So I completely understand that. I understand it. Okay. Well, we got some thank you for your responses. Thanks to all. Best of luck to all. We get some other comments in here, but I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. There are a few other comments in the chat. If you haven't seen them, you might want to, there's nothing big, but let's see here. Great sessions for district conventions. Let's see if I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, Vicky had a question about what traits or personal characteristics do you have to bring the added value. You can throw that in the chat or reach out to Vicky O from Michigan, but that's another question that she had. And then I think that got all of our questions.
I think it did.
So thank you all for being with us tonight. We'll be back next Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, where we'll have the rest of the vice president, or the vice president candidates. And Scott Sims will be with us, who is in membership this week, so he'll be with us next week, Chuck. The other candidates, you're welcome to join us again next week. And we will focus on the vice president candidates. But then the final week before we go to Denver, we'll have we can discuss the amendments, or if there's anything else that's out there, if anybody has any other questions on the bylaws, or I should say the amendments that come before the House. So I want to echo Joe put in there that there will be a booth in Denver for all of our candidates. So we encourage you to go visit all of them while you're in the marketplace to see them and say hi to them and get any more of your questions answered if you're going to be joining us there. But you're also welcome to reach out to any of the candidates. If you go to the Kiwanis.org /convention page, all the candidates' information, their bio information is there. And it doesn't hurt you to send a note and say, hey, I got another question, or what do you think about this? Got a couple of websites. So Eric's got a website, ericfortrustee.com. But there's information there for all of them. Many of them have Facebook pages. I strongly encourage you to take the opportunity to get to know them, as they are our representatives, and the decisions that we make are the decisions that lead to their decisions along the way. So with that, I will thank you for being with us tonight. We will see you next Thursday. I'll download this and we'll put it up on the Voices of Service page on the YouTube. And that's out there. And then for anybody that's interested, I recorded the president, secretary, treasurer, and membership chair club leadership education. If you're interested in that information, it's up on the Voices of Service page. Specifically, it's specific to Michigan in a sense. There's not much in there specific to Michigan, but just besides our leadership team. But that's out there if you want to take a look at that. But I encourage you to make sure that you are supporting the club leadership education that Kiwanis International will be presenting here in a couple of weeks. So thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
My weather.
Oh gosh, be careful. And then
Good luck, Joe.
Yeah, be careful for everybody.
You
Don't
say
Don't blow away in Kansas there.